Okay, welcome back. And it's just been way too long since we've had back with us our good friend Brad Dacus. He's the president of the Pacific Justice Institute, and you can go to pacificjustice.org or jc.org, and there it is, a picture of the landing page. Brad and his team, they're the advocates for life, for family, for America, for parents, for students. They are just outstanding at what they do. So I encourage you to check them out, pacificjustice.org. There he is, Brother Brad. How are you, buddy?
Oh, doing great, Perry.
Too long. Too long. Are you trapped in a revolving door? Do I need to throw you a sandwich?
Yeah. No, but no, we're busy, very busy. But it's always a pleasure to be on your program. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you, and we're honored to carry your program as well on the network. All right, some big wins. The Supreme Court ruled that public schools must notify parents about LGBTQ themed lessons. This is a big deal. Where do you think it goes?
Yeah, this is a huge ruling. It's going to have a huge impact on the public schools all throughout the United States. In that, in the past, they were saying, well, especially blue states saying, well, you can't opt out of this, you can't opt out of that. Maybe the birds and the bees, but you can't opt out of anything LGBTQ. And that's what they've been doing. And they've been doing things secretly and secretly grooming kids even. Well, this says no more. Parents have a fundamental right over their children's education, upbringing. And so if you've got something like this, you got to give notice to parents. And this is real important. You have to be willing to opt out children from anything that parents say violates their religious beliefs, their moral convictions. This is really fundamental because the other side would say, well, no, it's in our word problems, our mathematics, it's in our history, LGBTs and all, in this and that. And so it's just too cumbersome, too burdensome. And basically the court said, no, that means your problem is you're trying to argue that because you are so immensely violating the rights of parents, that you have to violate the rights of parents. And the court says, no, you have to respect the rights of parents. If that means you alter the math word problems to not have Bob and his boyfriend Steve in the word problem or other issues so that it's neutral and doesn't offend parents, then that's what you need to do. So this is a huge game changer. We at Pacific Justice Institute, in fact, we're in the process of updating our customized opt-out forms for each of the states across the country. It's going to be much broader, have much more authority to it, and it's going to be very effective. And if schools don't respect these opt-out forms, then we're ready to sue through our 36 offices coast to coast all across the country.
Okay, part of the argument is the opponent says that it marginalizes LGBTQ students. What's your response to that?
I think that's really a red herring because it doesn't marginalize. There's nothing. The court didn't say they have to have negative things, against LGBTQ lifestyles or manners or behaviors or identities. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about simply schools being sensitive to the wide diversity of parents out there and students. And if you're going to cover this material, then you better allow parents to opt out of all of it because it's a direct infringement on the rights of parents. A smart school, if they have any smart schools out there, public schools out there, will say, you know what, let's take out all the LGBTQ propaganda, indoctrination. Let's be respectful of all the parents. This is a controversial issue, and let's do that. It's like if they were pushing, say, one political party, and they had political symbols for that political party all over the school district, and they said, well, gee, if we remove that, those students of that political party are going to be marginalized. No, just making it neutral, making it without the propaganda, so that everyone from every political party would feel comfortable. It's the same principle here when it comes to controversial, very highly morally controversial and indoctrination programs dealing with LGBTQ and the like.
Is this enforceable? What happens if a school doesn't provide this? Is there a consequence to this?
Oh yeah, there's a big consequence because when they violate this, they violate the fundamental rights of parents as respected by the Supreme Court of the United States, as implicit within the meaning of the Constitution. So when they do that, then we at Pacific Justice Institute can move right on in and file a full fledged federal lawsuit against that school district, hitting them up for damages and really making it so that they'll never want to do it again. I can assure you, we're preparing to play hardball against every one of these school districts all across the country. And fortunately for us, we've got as you know, we've got the bandwidth with all the offices we have all across the country to do just that.
I don't expect the LGBTQ plus community to take this lightly, or even liberal school districts or states like California, New York. I would imagine there's going to be a pushback, or is this the final say-so?
Practically speaking, this is pretty much the final say-so. All we have to do now is simply educate parents and mobilize them to download opt-out forms, to file those opt-out forms, and then contact us when the opt-out forms are either not respected or not accepted by the school district. That's all we need, and we'll be hitting one school district after another. And once they start watching each other fall by the wayside, I'm sure they'll learn very quickly that they need to respect the rights of parents.
So, Brad, you and your team, you guys have been up to your eyeballs on this for a long time. So there's a shift. I mean, there's a shift happening here to the better. I mean, for the Supreme Court to say, yep, parents have the right to have their children opt out, more and more pressure is being put on males competing in female sports, the Title IX, which you can talk about. But there seems to be a healthy shift. What does that tell you?
It tells me that it's a shift, but it's I think the beginning of a whole new momentum in the right direction in terms of parental rights, religious freedom, the sanctity of human life. It's intensive, but we've got the Supreme Court finally stepping up, respecting the constitutional rights of individuals when it comes to these areas. And all we need now is, of course, Pacific Justice Institute and others that choose to get involved to step up and make sure it's enforced and make sure it's respected by going into court. And we pick up all the costs and all the expenses. We have 280 cases in active litigation. I would not be surprised to see that number grow significantly because of the new opportunities we have to really bring public schools accountable to parents the way they were originally.
You've been directly involved in supporting a briefs supporting the ban of biological men competing in girls' sports. Can you walk us through the case there?
Yeah, it's a basic fundamental question of do states have the ability, like West Virginia and others, blue states have the ability to pass laws that protect girls in girls' sports. The federal law, the Title IX, was passed specifically to do just that, to say, girls, you don't have to join the boys' basketball team because we know you're not going to probably ever make the boys' basketball team, with a few exceptions. No, we're going to entitle you to have your own girls' basketball team. That's what Title IX was all about. So girls compete against girls. So these states are simply saying, we want Title IX respected. We don't want to allow girls not to have the same equal opportunity for competition that boys do, by preventing boys from going into girls' sports. So I think this is a very solid case. I'm very optimistic on the final outcome. This is dealing with the state's rights to protect girls. The issue is going to be heard even broader in another case down the road, potentially. They could address the whole issue saying, can you have boys competing in girls' sports under Title IX, period? If they don't, then that's going to come back. They may just limit it to the state's rights. I think there's a good chance they're going to address Title IX rights of females, period. And if that happens, it's not just going to apply to West Virginia and red states. It's going to apply to all 50 states across the country, protecting girls' sports against biological males coming in and robbing them of their equal opportunity that they're entitled to under Title IX.
Do you think the Title IX argument, like you're involved, you think it'll ever totally impact the NCAA?
That's interesting. I think that I think in the end it will, because the fact that you're talking about universities and colleges competing. President Trump has already thrown down the hatchet at University of Pennsylvania, and they've quickly backed off. They were going to lose federal funding. Trump's made that really clear. University of Pennsylvania just or Penn U, they went and apologized, and yes, we're going to do things right, and just a complete 180. And everyone knows why. It's because they were going to lose funding, the same way Harvard and others are. So I think that's going to come around, and I think all of these college sports athletic competitions are going to go back to where they should be, which is keeping girls in girls sports and boys in boys sports.
Yeah, good stuff. Let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, you can go to pji.org, Pacific Justice Institute. There's a picture of the landing page. I tell you, Brad went from a one-man band to a nationwide organization. Why? Because the demand is there, and they are frontline warriors for you. So check it out and support them. pji.org. We'll be right back. And always a delight to have with us our good friend Brad Dacus. Brad is president of the Pacific Justice Institute. PJI.org is the website. He and his team are all over the country fighting for you. And a lot of their work is pro bono. And to them, this is a calling, not a job. And so go to their website and support them, PJI.org. Brad, as you know, the Supreme Court finally weighed in on some of these crazy lower courts' injunctions against the president and said, you guys can't do this. I guess that still has to be codified through Congress as to what the jurisdictions are of the lower courts. But at the end of the day, lower courts are still doing it.
Yeah.
And so doesn't seem to be any meat behind the ruling. What's going on?
Yeah, one of the problems, and Justice Alito talked about this, with the decision by the Supreme Court, was that it allowed a loophole, and it was basically a class action loopholes, which where the court says, well, individual federal district court, you can rule on behalf of your plaintiffs that you have before you, and it can be binding your decision on your federal district, but not the whole government, not the President of the United States, the executive branch, and et cetera, unless it's dealing with a class action. Now, if you want to have a decision that's on behalf of an entire class, like a class action kind of a case, well, then that's the exception, because you're dealing with everyone, and it can be beyond your district. Well, that's the loophole. And Alito said, wait a minute, with this loophole, they can still be judicial activists. They can still, paralyze the country by claiming that there's members of this class and all throughout the country, whether it's illegal aliens or whatever group they're talking about. And so that's part of the problem. It's a big problem. And I think the Supreme Court is going to need to come back around and narrow what they mean by class action lawsuits, and how broad they're really willing to make it. So we've got some problems here. The decision allowed too big of a loophole. I think that's now very apparent. I think the Supreme Court's going to have to take this up on another decision that will be coming up to their court with one of these activist judge decisions being appealed.
All right. So given the ambiguity of this, doesn't this kind of also force Congress to get involved in describing the actual district of a district court?
Yeah, and Congress has the power to do that, and they may go ahead and weigh in on this. The fact the Supreme Court in their decision recently didn't really nail it down with the clarity necessary to prevent this from continuing, we may have to have that at the end of the day. But the good news is I think we have a Congress that has the understanding of the importance of it and the capacity, and that I think there's a good chance they may have the votes too. So that's the other avenue. The other one is the Chief Justice and on another case, and the other members of the Supreme Court clarifying this, narrowing it even further. That may happen well before Congress acts on the matter.
Okay. I want to come back to education. I know that's a big concern for you and your organization, and we're seeing some adjustments made in education. And one of the things that's been talked about, administration through administration, is the unnecessary need of the Department of Education. The president did get a green light to continue to downsize government. Do you think the Department of Education is heading for closure?
Yeah, I do. It was created by President Jimmy Carter, and it was sort of spoken into existence so he can, claim he created another part of bureaucracy at the time. But it really is not necessary. Public education in the past has been something that has been governed by the states, and it's really worked very well because the states have been, they effectively compete against each other. As states are excelling with their policies, other states aren't, and they're learning from each other, ideally learning from each other. I don't think California is learning much from the rest of the country, but that's another topic. But that's something we've benefited from. So we don't need it on a federal level, even in the Pell Grant process or the student loan process. I think this administration also wants that to shift, especially the student loan process, to shift more to the private sector to get government, their hands out of it. One of the problems we have, Department of Education, the student loan program, is it doesn't matter what your major is. It could be, a finger painting bachelor's degree, and they'll let you take out your $200,000 in student loans, knowing that there's no way you could ever pay off the student loans with that kind of a major. The free market would look at what is your major. What is the projected income? Is how much of a loan could you take and viably be able to pay it off? So I think that bringing the free market back into the equation will actually help students in the end make wise decisions in terms of both their major as well as their level of debt.
The reason I want to stick with education for a moment, given the changes, again, the Supreme Court saying that parents can have their children opt out from the curriculum promoting LGBTQ. You got Title 10, or excuse me, the Title 9, and then the possibility of the Department of Ed being dissolved, going back to the states. There's a significant thing here, and that is this ends up being a wide open door for parents getting involved at the school board's level. I mean, this is where it belongs. I'm just wondering if we see this opportunity coming, or.
Yeah, well, we definitely do, and there's another big elephant that's been discovered in the big beautiful bill, and that is school tax credits, if you will, for private education. Very similar to Arizona, but it's going to be nationwide. And people can say, do you want $1,700 of your taxes to act as a tax credit that will be then appropriated to a nonprofit scholarship fund to fund children's ability to go into alternative schools like private schools? It's huge. It wasn't talked about at the time they were debating it. But now it's very apparent, the language. It is a huge game changer. We're going to see people all across the United States checking that box. Yes, I want my $1,700 of my taxes to go towards that instead of the general treasury. It's going to empower foundations and scholarship funds to allow children in the inner cities, children all across the country, to have that opportunity for parents to choose alternatives to government public schools, which to me have become spiritual death camps. So this is incredible. And this combined with the rights of parents to opt their kids out and to receive notices from public schools, it's an exciting time. And we at PJI are working on something at a federal level. I can't get into the details, but are going to apply to both public education and something else, applying to firming up parents' rights even more. So it's an exciting time, and we need to take full advantage of the opportunity.
So is there a cap on that? You used the number 17. Is that the cap?
That's my understanding. What the cap is, 1,700, which is very significant when you talk about everyone's, half of Americans, check that box. That's an enormous sum of money that would be able to fund just about, I think, every child who wants to go to a private school instead of government schools. It's going to be a huge game changer, bringing free market competition back to where it needs to be. And those public schools that survive will only survive because they change what they do to be competitive and attractive for parents not to choose private schools instead.
So the bill is signed, so it's in effect now. They could use this upcoming fall for registration?
I'm not sure if it's going to kick in this fall or the next fall because the foundations need to be set up. The tax revenue, people from their taxes, have already paid their taxes, presumably. So it's probably going to be for the following school year. But it's going to be very dramatic, and it hasn't received much news coverage. But it's going to be an exciting opportunity. I think we're going to see inner city private schools start up all over the place throughout the United States in particular, which is desperately needed to save children who are the most deprived of a quality education, which are those in public schools in the inner cities.
Wow. Anything else in the bill that you discovered? I know I look at it from deregulation, running a business and a ministry. I'm constantly looking for deregulation. What else did you see that was a good surprise to you?
Yeah, what was interesting is the ability for people to write the interest off their loan when they buy a new car. They can write the interest just like the interest on a mortgage. And at first blush, I'm like, well, cars depreciate. But it's contingent on them buying a car that's made in America. And that is going to be a huge boost to jobs throughout the United States, the U.S. auto industry. Other countries are going to be building their plants in the United States. It's economically, I think it'll be have an incredible impact on our creating jobs, nice paying jobs for Americans in blue collar areas across the country. I thought that was a very interesting thing. And I'm also excited outside of that to see the tariffs that are going down. That's going to have a huge increase in revenue, which is, I think, is going to, in the end, really help pay down the deficit and the deficit spending.
Brad, good to see you, friend. It's been too long. You're looking good. Let's stay connected. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to pji.org. That's his website. He and his team are there for you. And like I said, yes, this is a calling, not a job. It's a calling to be there to represent you and justice for you. So check it out, pji.org. Okay? Hang in there, buddy. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right. God bless.